Motivation comes and goes and the alarm goes off at 4:45. It's like, I'm not motivated to get out of my warm bed and go have some 250-pound sweaty dude put his balls on my face.
Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Scott Groves from the On the Edge podcast. I have kind of an old acquaintance but new friend, Nate Palmer, on the show, aka Low Carb Hustle. And I figure we're recording this in March of 2023. We're actually a little bit ahead of schedule, Nate, so this will probably come out in like April, May-ish. But we're recording this right around the time that everybody's New Year's resolution is a distant memory. They're gaining back the weight. They've stopped testing their blood sugar. They've given up on the hustle or the lead generation, or they've given up on the diet, or they've given up on the spending time with their family. And you can go back to the gym and there's plenty of parking and everybody is gone and the steam rooms are cleaner. So I thought, man, what better time than now to talk to and I don't even know how you label yourself, nutritionist, physical fitness extraordinaire. We'll talk about that, all the different industries that come out of the health industry, all the different types of experts. But like, what better time to talk than now when everybody's giving up on their healthy lifestyle New Year's resolution? So welcome to the show and tell me what it is you do.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here. Basically, what I do is basically walk people through lifestyle changes from a nutrition, fitness, environmental, and habit perspective to help them get the results that they're looking for, not just for the next 6 weeks, but for long term. So I teach a style of nutrition called low carb backloading, but it wasn't always like this, Scott.
Yeah.
Previously, I was a personal trainer. That's kind of how I started in the industry. Personal trainer, not because I was like captain of the football team, but because I was super insecure about my skinny arms. And I had, one time in high school, this girl was like, "Hey, Nate, let me see your arms." And I was like, "Yeah, you talking about Big Dub Diesel? You talking about the boss?" And she turns to her friend and she goes, "See, I told you my arms were bigger than his." And I was like, guess I'll kill myself. So that's why I was being a personal trainer. Deep-seated compensation.
Yeah,
still dealing with that.
I feel like every personal trainer has some story like that, right? Where like they were the fat kid in school, or somebody made fun of them, or they didn't make, the varsity football team, and then their life's mission became health and fitness.
I mean, I think so too. But then I worked at a gym in Seattle called Pro Sports Club, and they had like in this one gym, it was like 480,000 square feet. It was insane. Like Olympic swimming pools. They had like like an auto spa, a florist, dry cleaners. Like it was like, this place was absolutely crazy. They had 128 trainers when I was working there, and all of them were hot. Every single person there was hot and good looking and strong. And I was like, where am I? So I don't think that they were necessarily all compensating for something, but I do feel like the gym is just, especially for men, just filled with hurt little boys that are still dealing with stuff.
Well, the gym my wife goes to now, it became such a problem with the like Instagram culture that they have built an entire room where it's like women only. I don't even know if we can legally define that anymore, but women only and no cell phones or cameras allowed, period. Because they were running into this weirdness where like gals were trying to record themselves for the perfect Instagram shot. And then some dude would like snap a picture of them because they were half naked. And then the girl would get mad. And the manager of the gym was like, "Well, I don't know what to do here, man. Like you've basically set up a recording studio that you're going to put out there publicly on Instagram. Why is it more creepy that this guy's just beating you to the punch and taking a picture? Like you're in a public place to put stuff up publicly on Instagram. I don't know how to regulate this." So he's like, "All right, we're building a room that's like women only, no cameras." And so that's interesting.
I think they should flip it and actually do a room where it's cameras only.
Cameras only. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. No cameras anywhere else, but go into this room. We got some backlit stuff, big gym logo. You can like get in there and be like, "Just did shoulders," and you show the booty. That's the constant shoulder pose on Instagram.
I have a friend of ours who babysits our kids once in a while, and she works at a gym. I won't say what gym it is, but she works at a gym where it is women only, and the gym, no joke, Nate, is designed to look good in Instagram photos because they have a bunch of like pro cheerleaders and some girls that do like the ring card girl stuff from like the UFC fights and the boxing matches, and it's clear that everything is set up to be an Instagram pose. And I'm like, good for you, like you're filling a niche.
I was going to say, your demographic. Same as Planet Fitness, right? That's why they offer pizza on Fridays. They know the demographic. They know those people are hungry for pizza.
Wait, is that true? I thought that was like a meme joke.
Oh man, I wish. No, it's my buddy literally sent me a picture. He goes, he texted me a picture from Planet Fitness because that's where he goes. He goes, I go to the candy gym, and they got a big bowl of candy in front of there. They do bagel Thursdays and pizza Fridays because they want you to know that it's okay to have a little treat there sometimes. Don't work too hard.
Oh my
Don't hold
goodness.
yourself to too high of a standard.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, they know their demographic. All right. So you were mentioning actually before we started recording that your demographic is like, hey man, I'm not the nutritionist for the morbidly obese person who's just trying to learn that you shouldn't have pizza 3 meals a day. You're working with the person who's got a few pounds to lose, but really wants to be like lean and proud of their body. Like, so who's like kind of your target client that you like working with?
I love working with male entrepreneurs and business owners. Like that's my bread and butter. Most guys who got like 20 to 30 pounds to lose haven't been able to get rid of that spare tire or that like the love handles. And just want to get lean and feel really good. You know, so if you want to go from like skinny fat to lean, like that's my niche.
What's skinny fat? Wait, you're gonna have to define skinny fat.
Oh yeah. Skinny fat is like, I feel like you see this a lot where like a guy looks good in a t-shirt, but he has like a little belly and small arms. So like, you know, you wouldn't be like, oh, you are unhealthy.
Right.
But that guy still doesn't feel good taking his shirt off at the beach or the pool.
Got it. He's the guy that you see at the bar who you're like, yeah, fine. He's not obese, but I'm pretty sure I could beat him up if we went to the mat.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, like, I'm glad you said that because, so I started doing jiu-jitsu a couple months ago, like 3 months. Right. So I'm very fresh to it. I get completely smushed very often. But I still do. When I go out, I'm like, I could take him. I could definitely take him. Mostly like anyone who's like 100 pounds smaller than me. I'm like, right. I could take that 8-year-old for sure.
Right. I'm 100% with you. And I always tell people like, I'm in the stage where there's a group of guys who I can smash, and then there's a much larger group of guys who will always smash me for the rest of my life because we'll just continue to get better together. But when I do smash the guys that I know I can smash, I'm always like, hey, man, great roll. If I didn't have 50 pounds on you, I'd be in big trouble. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of because you're a pansy. No, I'm just kidding. Just in case any of the skinny guys at the gym are listening.
You can throw me in that first category because apparently it doesn't matter. Like old, young, people who've got like 60 pounds less than me, doesn't like 60 pounds more than me. Like it just doesn't matter. I just get completely destroyed.
Yeah.
I'm going tonight. I'm looking forward to more of the same.
I got to tell you, there's a guy who would be in your perfect demographic of somebody you have worked with. I was at a previous gym, and shout out to Vern, right? So I'm going with Vern. He's like a purple belt. He's been doing this for about 5 years. And I knew that he had worked in like the movie industry and did like construction, set design or something. So like, he's like a blue collar physical labor guy, right? And he's strong as shit. He's digging his elbows into me. And like, so I started going hard with him. And then after the class was over, the instructor pulled me over and he's like, hey man, you gotta go kind of easy on Vern. I'm like, oh, no, screw that, man. I know the guy's older. Like I thought he was in his 50s. He's older, but that guy goes hard in the paint, man. And he's strong. Like I can't go into that match being a wuss. And he's like, no, dude, you're going to tear his skin. I'm like, tear his skin? I'm like, how old is this guy? And the instructor looks at me. He's like, bro, he's 71. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, Vern used to be a cowboy. Then he was like a stuntman. And then when he broke his body being like a stuntman and a cowboy, then he did like a 20-year career being a contractor. And he's like the toughest dude I've ever met. And he's out there with his grown sons, like on the mat, just tearing it up. And I'm like, that's what I want to be when I'm 71. Not
Life
like
goals for sure.
Yeah, not barely get off the couch, grumpy old man in the corner watching Fox News 8 hours a day. I want to be that guy hitting the jiu-jitsu studio twice a day at 71.
Beast. I love that though. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that, like, in my estimation, age isn't just your number, obviously, but I think the more aggressively you're pursuing comfort in your life, the more you're going to age yourself, right? So if he went from cowboy to stuntman and then was like, he didn't just like, was like, good for me, good enough. He's like, now I'm going to go into construction. Now I'm going to do something else hard. I feel like that generation also like stays real busy.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that is such a cool thing rather than just like sitting back on the couch watching Fox News, like you were saying, but actively doing something that's tough, putting yourself in challenging situations, like at 66 being like, you know what I should get into? Fighting. I should start fighting.
Yes. I should roll around with guys 1/3 my age who are trying to snap my wrist and my neck. Good plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do this next phase.
So you've said this already a couple times in the last few minutes, and I've seen it on your social media and whatnot. And you talk about a little bit about, I'll nickname it for you, like the curse of chasing comfort. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because this is an ongoing kind of talking point of yours. I've checked out some of your other stuff, and this idea of chasing comfort. Why is that a big net negative to you in the life of most Americans, especially?
Because I think that if, our lives are already so comfortable, right? Like, when is the last time anyone in this country had to walk to get water? We haven't been hungry since 1943, yet we still find all these things to disturb our peace, right? Whether it's traffic or our jobs or the mean persons on YouTube, which, by the way, someone on YouTube said to me the other day that I have the worst hair in the history of hair. And I was like, that's so mean, and 100% chance you're bald. So I just feel like when you have this outlook that is consistently I'm going to go find something that's difficult, whether that's, cold showers. I know cold plunges and cold showers the hottest thing right now. Or training, just working out, going to jiu-jitsu, waking up early, just putting yourself in positions where you are getting humbled or you're doing something that's outside of your comfort zone that feels really good in the moment. I think that helps us develop this mental fortitude and toughness, so that when little things pop up, we don't instantly just crumple up and die, which is what I've been seeing so many people doing, especially in the last 3 years. Do you know that 11% of people in the United States are on antidepressants right now? 11%.
Wow.
That's insane. That's almost triple the next highest country. And you know what the next highest country is that's on antidepressants?
No idea.
Ukraine, a country at war. Right? Ooh. So thinking about that we are 2 or 3 times more depressed than a country at war. And for what? We have everything. And it's because that we have so much and we haven't been challenged or pushed. So there's no resilience. So I feel like now I'm when I talk to people and I have to talk them off the ledge because they're struggling so much with making a good choice at lunch. I just think hey, this is so unimportant. This is such a non-factor in your life. And to spend so much mental energy being consumed with, but I'm having a hard time with my sugar intake. And we're but that doesn't matter. Honestly, your fitness level doesn't even matter. Your fitness level facilitates other things in your life that are awesome. Like your relationship with your family and your kids and your spouse and the financial success you want to have. And the freedom you develop and the life and the legacy you leave is all predicated on you having enough energy and focus to go out and pursue those, right? So fitness is a vehicle. It is not the end all be all. So to see people get stuck on step one because they don't have the mental resilience or fortitude to push through and do anything hard is it breaks my heart to see adult men dealing with this stuff.
What do you think that step one is, right? If somebody comes to you and they're like, hey man, I got a blood panel, right? And my doctor kind of told me my metabolic health is way bad. Cholesterol is bad. Blood sugar is too high. Yada yada yada. But look at me. I'm not morbidly obese. Maybe I hit Planet Fitness a couple times a week, and I lift some weights and I walk on the elliptical. What is usually step one? Because I feel like it's very specific. You talked about that specifically, that male business owner, maybe out of the business lunch, that can't say no to the sugar intake. What is that step one of hey guys, we got to fix this in your diet, in your psyche, in your habits, in your environment, so that we can even move down the path. Do you find there's usually a common denominator on that step one of the problem?
There's a couple things that kind of come up, and it really depends on the person, because I think that for a lot of guys, it's creating time to do some movement, and I still think nutrition is probably more important than the movement aspect, but I think for dudes, especially, getting the movement can really facilitate and lead to that positive snowball effect that's going to allow them to eat better long-term. And a lot of guys, especially business owners, will 100% of the time get rid of their gym time to follow up for the prospect, sign a new client, have a meeting, right? So they're always putting their business health ahead of their physical health. So I think that's one big thing. I think a second thing that I see a lot is the mindset piece, where guys don't believe that they are athletes. They don't believe that they are or should be fit. So I had a guy tell me the other day, he's like, man, I'm just a funny fat guy. I just eat, like I eat a lot of food, and like I'm kind of a jovial person. And I was like, well, that's your belief about yourself. You're never going to be successful, because if you can white knuckle this for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, get some results, you're just going to rebound right back up. You need to change your identity around how your body performs and the energy that you have. And like the fact that I'm an exerciser, I move my body. And if you don't have that piece, the long-term success doesn't exist, because we can be disciplined, we can be motivated, but we can never act outside of our identity for a long period of time.
Say that again for the people in the back.
So we can have discipline, we can have motivation. Jocko's like discipline over motivation, but I think identity over discipline and motivation, because we can never act outside of our identity for long periods of time. If you always believe you're a fat guy, you will eventually return to that reality.
I love that. The identity is greater than the discipline, because discipline is much better than motivation, because motivation comes and goes, and the alarm goes off at 4:45. It's like, I'm not motivated to get out of my warm bed and go have some 250-pound sweaty dude put his balls on my face, but I'm committed to like getting better at this practice and getting a purple belt one day, right? Like that's the current goal. And I think sometimes people like myself, we even trick ourselves of like, oh, I got to post something on Instagram or social media about doing jujitsu, because I need part of my identity to be like, oh yeah, Scott's the guy that does jujitsu, because that will motivate me to go to jujitsu, because I don't want to feel like a fake. I don't want to feel like a phony and be like, oh yeah, I posted that picture of me and Jocko one time, and then like I haven't been to class in like 6 weeks. But if people know that like, oh, part of Scott's identity is, oh yeah, he's a loan officer, he does podcasts, he does jujitsu, well then I can't miss a podcast or a jujitsu practice, because then I'm just a piece of shit who's out of alignment with myself.
I got this tattoo for the same reason. It's a big on my forearm. It says inevitable. And I, for me, this is one of the core values of my program, which is do what you say you're going to do, be inevitable with your word. And I think that, I put that on my forearm because like, there's nothing that people like less than being a hypocrite. Right. So to have that there all the time is a constant reminder of a standard that I have to hold myself to. Otherwise I'm a big piece of shit.
Right.
I had a friend the other day tell me, she's like, she was talking about my daughter, who's like almost 5. She's like, your daughter has like the same like body type as you. And she's like, and it's funny that I can visually, like, I know exactly what your torso looks like because you always post it on social media. And I was like, there's like part of the reason I do that is because like, I can't be slipping on that. Like that's kind of a part of my identity. I'm like the fitness guy. I need to be, if I can't expect someone to be at 100 if I'm only at 99. So I always have to be like at that level. And I think one of the ways that I do that is by having a lot of shirtless pictures, for better or worse.
Right. Super hot. I was looking at those just the other day.
I've been actually looking for the compliments. I've been fishing for that kind of the whole time. So
perfect. Super hot. Super hot. Yeah, it's why like, I'm a very judgmental person, even though I'm kind of working on that. I cannot look at a fat police officer and have any respect for them. I'm like, bro, I'm not particularly fast or nimble, but if I can outrun you, you should not be a police officer. Like if you're morbidly obese, you shouldn't be a cop. Like I inherently have no respect for you if you're not in better physical fitness. Like if you're not in better physical shape than chubby 44-year-old Scott Groves, you should not be a law enforcement, right? Because like you're a law enforcement officer. Because there's like a certain, in my mind, there's like a certain physical standard and level of discipline. And like if you might have to get into a life or death tussle, you can't be winded after going up 2 flights of stairs. So there's my judgmental Scott coming out, and that all police officers who are morbidly obese should get with Nate Palmer. Or if they're just a little obese, they should get with Nate Palmer so he can fix them up. All right. So you mentioned this making time, create time for the movement. What are the other things? You said there's like 1 or 2 things that I got you off on a tangent, but you said there's like there's a couple things that like are the first stepping stones. So like this is where guys are a mess.
Yeah. So making time for movement, I think, is important. I think that can go into the third thing. The second thing I said was identity.
Oh,
the
identity.
Third thing is your morning routine. And I think that includes breakfast for me. So making sure that your morning routine is it's on point. It does a couple different things. Number one, it eliminates decision fatigue. So like I said, I got a 5-year-old, I got a 2-year-old home. And one of my favorite parenting strategies is called overwhelming choice. I don't know if you've ever employed this one before, where you're like, yeah, you see the kids like getting all feisty and you're like, all right, here we go. Do you want the red cup or the blue cup? Do you want ice in it or just regular water? Do you want water? Do you want milk? Do you want to sit here? Do you want to sit there? Do you want me to carry you? Do you want to walk yourself? Do you want to pick you up or put you down? You want to go to the left? You want to go right? And you just hit them with like a million choices all in a row till you see their little eyes like gloss over and suddenly they were a lot more compliant. Have you done this before?
No.
It's fun. It's fun. But I'm not better than a 5-year-old. I am a 5-year-old also still. So when I'm faced with a bunch of choices of like Pop-Tart or bagel, should I have the banana? Should I do this? Should I wake up? Should I snooze? Should I wear my blue shirt or my black shirt? And I start like all of a sudden just getting like scrambled brains because I have so many options in front of me. That's when we start having that decision fatigue, especially later in the day when we have to make actually important decisions or you have to decide on going to the gym or not going to the gym or hitting your workout or not. So I think that everyone should be striving to eliminate decision fatigue in the mornings, first thing. So have a breakfast that you always have. If you have a shake that works for you in the morning, I've been having the same shake for the last 15 years. It's good and it's fine. And it gives me the nutrients that I need. I don't have to think about it.
All right, give us the secret recipe Nate Palmer shake.
Okay, it's super secret. So just write this down. You're going to put some ice in it. I always go water. I've been doing water recently. 2 scoops of protein. I kind of vary mine, but I always go with the whey protein isolate or hydrolysate. 5 grams of creatine and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter or almond butter.
That's it.
And then like a grinder of salt. I put some salt in there.
That's it. No fruit, no athletic greens, no weird steroids or anything like that.
I put in a little bit of weird steroids sometimes.
Okay,
but
perfect.
sometimes I'll put in like, if I have like, I just went through a thing of like kelp liver supplements. I'll put that in there for a little bit, put some reishi mushrooms in for a little bit. I'm experimenting and trying new things, but that the base recipe stays the same. I had that exact recipe this morning, yesterday morning, the morning before that. It's
Nice.
fine. It serves me. It does what I need to do. So then having that on hand is clutch. Also knowing like, what are you going to wear tomorrow? Like, am I going to wear the black shirt with the red hand or the black shirt with the white hand? Like, it's not a super big choice for me. Just all my clothes look about the same. I have 11 of this same black shirt. And then I think your morning routine should also cast a vote for the person you're becoming. So you want to be a purple belt. So your morning routine includes jiu-jitsu. It makes sense, or, even if it's like, I'm going to do a little bit of stretching or work on my neck because my neck always gets hurt at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, me too.
So like whatever you're doing should point to who you are becoming and what you want to do. I think that's very important in the morning. And I think that like, if you have that piece in place, then the rest of your day starts off by you've gotten a win. You've like started aggregating wins early on in the day. So you got your clothes on, you got your shake, you cast a vote for who you're becoming, you've eliminated some decision fatigue. Now all of a sudden the rest of your day is going to be a lot simpler. So I think those 3 things are kind of the cornerstones of behavior change that I like to introduce guys to. And it depends on everybody's a little bit different what we start with, kind of depending on deficiencies.
I love that. So I made the joke about the weird steroids in the breakfast shake, but this is a really hot topic. And let's say your average male business professional, has got a lot of gray hair like us, somewhere over 35, 45, something like that. There's all kinds of, you could literally drive yourself nuts. Should I be on TRT or HGH or peptides or blah, 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 or supplements or what have you? Does the average healthy male in America, either through our diet or environmental or whatnot, does there come an age where like, if you want to kind of stall the clock and keep it, at a certain age, or you want to even find that fountain of youth to push yourself back a little bit, are there any of these supplements, testosterone replacement, hormones, are there things that dudes should be thinking about as we get older? Obviously we have to give the disclaimer. We're not a doctor. We're not talking to anybody individual. Consult your physician, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just talking about in general, like, are there these long-term studies that men should be on XYZ hormone replacement or testosterone replacement and it won't give you some type of weird cancer? Like, obviously there's steroids that have been out there forever that can get 20-year-olds to peak performance and make people as big as Mr. Olympian if they're also lifting weights 8 hours a day. But I'm just talking about for your average aging dude who wants to stay in health and be on the jiu-jitsu mats at 70. Is there science out there that supports doing something?
Great question. And I don't honestly know the answer to that question specifically as you asked it. So I'll say this. I feel like if you can get up every single day and you can get some sunlight on your body, some actual sunlight on your skin, you can walk on the earth in some capacity on the dirt or the grass, and you can do some sort of breathing exercises, I think that is going to have a tremendous effect on not only your longevity, but also how you feel, your energy, your focus during that time. I think though that like what I've been seeing a lot of, and this is completely anecdotal, is when I see clients, especially kind of in their 40s and 50s, who have jumped on TRT or done something like that. Because I don't necessarily know if people are on growth hormone or not. I can't tell. And I think TRT is becoming more mainstream, and I have clients who are doing it, so I can kind of see what's happening as they do it. And I don't know if it's adding life to their lifespan. I don't think they're going to be living longer. I don't think it's a longevity piece, but I feel like it's adding life to their years, So I think that like I've seen guys go from poor sleep, feeling low emotionally, just not really doing that good, like just kind of being crotchety and grumpy.
Yeah. Low sex drive, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Just like making a big shift in like 2 or 3 weeks once they jumped on a TRT program. I also love it because like selfishly, like someone's like comes through and they're like, I just got on TRT. I'm like, oh man, we're about to have a transformation here.
Right.
Send the pictures over.
Right. Right.
It makes my job a lot easier when people's hormones are actually where they're supposed to be. So I don't ever mind that from a selfish perspective and just like kind of getting people results. But I've also seen that from an emotional perspective, energetically, people seem to do a lot better. They're a lot happier, have more like enthusiasm towards life when they have, I'll say proper levels of hormones, because I don't necessarily know what everyone's blood work looks like.
Yeah, of course. And, that brings up another interesting, you can go down all the rabbit holes on this. It's like, again, let's say we're talking to that middle-aged dude. If you read the Tom Brady TB12 book, he must use the word pliability 1,000 times. And he's like, the whole goal is to make yourself more functionally pliable. And like, I kept thinking of like Pilates and yoga, and like Tom Brady's just trying to make his body more strong but rubbery to sustain the impacts from professional football, right? And then there's other frame of thoughts that are like, no, you got to get as much muscle and bone density as possible by lifting as much weight as heavy as possible, as long as possible. And then there's other guys that are like, no, just do cardio and run marathons and you'll be fine and you'll live a long, healthy life with like a lot of life to your years. And then for me, I'm like, well, I love jujitsu. Being on the mat is an amazing challenge and it's making me stronger. But if I'm being real, all of my physical fitness is sitting on the ground. And then I look down at my, my watch and I'm like, ooh, I only got 2,500 steps this fine day. That cannot be good for my overall metabolic health. And so if you're thinking about like, man, I really want to craft a program for longevity that's going to keep you upright, it's not going to blow out your spinal cord like certain physical fitness programs. Where are you biasing towards? Is it weight? Is it cardio? Is it like you must get in 30 minutes of HIIT training? Is CrossFit awesome because you're throwing up as much weight as possible? Like when you're constructing a plan for a man, let's say in their 40s or 50s, what are you thinking about as far as the physical fitness aspect of it?
I love what you said, like the second thing, like, well, first, pliability, I think that's a really great word for what we're looking for. But like bone density and muscle mass, you can't sleep on those things. But I think the misconception is that the more muscle mass you build, like the bulkier you get, and all of a sudden you lack range of motion. But I think the best combination here is doing like building muscle mass through a complete range of motion. So that way you have access to A, more muscle mass, more bone density, but B, you can actually move your body in the correct way. So like when you're doing your like bench presses, actually coming down, getting that stretch, when you're doing your lat pull downs, going all the way up. I like a split squat, like a Bulgarian split squat, because it builds flexibility through the hamstrings and through the quads while you're getting stronger. And so if you can train both aspects of your functionality at the same time, that's money. The people who tell you just to do cardio, like that's old science. That's old news. Because when you're doing long bouts of extended steady state cardio, you're really increasing your cortisol levels. So like when you see people who have done like Tour de France, like marathon runners and stuff, they have the opposite problem as your friend Vern. You look at them and you're like, are you guys doing okay? Are you 59? And they're like, we're 33. We feel good. You're like, shit, your skin looks horrible. Just because of the oxidative stress that comes from that extended periods of cardio. Like that's not how we're supposed to be either.
Right.
So I would definitely say you got to be working out 3 times a week, like doing some sort of strength training 3 times per week. I love a push pull legs. That's such an easy way for guys to get this in. And then a lot of dudes that I work with like want the arms and shoulder day. We got to have it.
Yeah.
Then I think that having some sort of like I mean, I love jujitsu because it builds flexibility. It builds real world strength because, there's no one ever fighting you back on a dumbbell row. And like, I don't know how you work out, but
Right.
no one ever fighting me back on a dumbbell row.
Yeah. No one's ever taking a swing at me when I'm like doing a bench press or something.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, you can go be strong, but can you be strong against someone who doesn't want you to do the thing that you're doing?
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole nother level of strength and ability. So even if your watch isn't really reflecting that you got a ton of movement because you didn't actually get up and walk on your feet, that's an amazing practice. And if you had that like 2 or 3 times per week, that'd be fantastic. And then the only thing I would add on to that, because the jiu-jitsu really for me hits that cardio, it hits a lot of that interval style training because, between like the intensity of the matches and practice. And then if you're just getting 7,000 steps per day, that's fantastic because that's making you get out and walk just a little bit. And science has shown us, there's a couple studies that have come out recently that say, hey, 10,000 steps doesn't seem to necessarily do much more for longevity and cardiovascular health. Once you hit 7,000, you kind of get a little diminishing returns after the fact. So yeah, get 10, get 12, doesn't matter, but 7 minimum. And then you add that to 3 times a week of jiu-jitsu, 3 times a week of strength training. Like, you have a great program, a great routine.
Nice. So I want to ask this question just selfishly, and you can be self-deprecating if you care to, but as somebody who has like, a good level of metabolic health, you look good with your shirt off, like you do this for a living on training. Now that you're doing jiu-jitsu, which is a whole different kind of range of motion and body function, where are you finding you're underdeveloped either in strength, cardio? You're like, oh dude, my pecs look great. But to do all of these movements, I really needed my tricep and that's underdeveloped. Like, where are you finding in jiu-jitsu where you're having the hardest time physically, where you're like, oh, I never thought to work on this part of my body, and it turns out this part of my body really needs some work?
Dude, I am getting crushed cardiovascularly. Like, repeatedly, I'm throwing up, like I'm dying. Like, it's every time is complete suffering and hell for me. Like, I have not gotten to the point where I'm like, that was a really fun roll. Did you have a good time too? I had a great time. I always get done, I'm like,
so your heart rate's going through the roof because you're still in fight or flight mode. You haven't figured out how to relax in any of the positions yet or not?
Yeah, I just got to the point where I felt like I could hang out and guard for a second without feeling like I'm gonna like lose my shit. But
right.
But like that was like last Monday. So I've just been getting completely destroyed. I think I'm breathing like shit. I think I freak myself out because I've noticed that like even in like just light rolls with people, I will quit before they submit me. Like,
right.
Like, and I'm kind of like, I'll be on the bottom getting I get my arm trapped up here or something like that. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, please just give me an arm bar or something. I need to stop.
Yeah. It's like a panic tap.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm trying to work through that, but it's honestly just making me understand that like being in quote unquote good shape or having like visible muscle tone doesn't mean shit when it comes to actually like combat and like performance. Yeah. I feel like I was like, it's only been a couple months, but I feel like I was just a baby. I was just a child.
Yeah.
And like against someone with a knowledge of martial arts or like combat sports at all, there's nothing you can do. You have no recourse. You have no chance. And so this has been a very humbling experience because everything that I do right now, I'm good at. Right. So like I go to work, I'm good at my work. I go to the gym and I work out. I'm really good at dumbbell rows. I can really just press the weights around and stuff like that. And then I go there and I get my ass handed to me. And I'm like, shit.
Don't you feel like especially guy, and I see it in my daughter as well, don't you just feel like every human needs that moment where they're humbled almost to the point of embarrassment? Because I can tell you, like, from doing jiu-jitsu, we're going through what's effectively a meltdown in my primary business, which is doing mortgages. And I'm so much more at peace than I think I would have been, 3 years ago before I was doing jiu-jitsu. Because it's like, it's very humbling and you learn how to deal with stress. And you're like, all right, this really sucks. I feel like there's 1,000-pound weight on my chest at work, but just breathe. It'll be okay. Don't you feel like every human needs like these forever humbling experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that a lot of us have a inflated view of our own abilities. And myself, like, I put myself chief among them. Like, that's
myself
included. I always have a high, I always think I'm the best, super smart, great, just a great guy. So it's good to be humbled almost to the point of despair. And then I also totally agree with you. Like, I've noticed that like, that's probably been the biggest thing that I've noticed is that little things don't get under my skin as much because at least no one's choking me right now. At least I can still breathe. That's pretty cool for me.
Yeah. Weird how things come into perspective when you have somebody trying to snap your neck or cut off your oxygen.
Yeah, like it's completely shifted perspective on the little hardships that we undergo in life. And that's kind of bringing us back to what we were talking about early. Because if you don't have any perspective, then all the little things are like perceived as being these big things that we need to really like put a lot of emotional energy into. But if you've dealt with some really hard shit, or you've had someone put their knee on your stomach and you had to just suffer through it for the last 45 seconds while the clock is ticking down, then suddenly those little things you can really see from a perspective level, like, that's not that big of a deal. This will pass.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of hardship, I'd love to like shift the conversation a little bit from fitness itself to like the journey of entrepreneurship, right? Because like I can go on Instagram and every third ad is for something physical fitness related, right? And there's a million gyms and a million different flavors. And I mean, I've had high cholesterol my whole life, so this is one little microcosm of health that I've been following because my family has horrible health history. I've been on a statin for a long time, and it's like, depending on the season, it's like, oh no, we're really concerned about only overall total cholesterol. You've got to get it down to at least your age plus 100. Oh, if you really want to prevent yourself from having a heart attack, you got to get it under 100. Oh, wait a minute, maybe all we care about is having the good cholesterol, the HDL higher. Oh, you know what? Maybe you should be on these PKS9 inhibitor. It's like the science changes.
Particle size.
Particle size of cholesterol now. And now they're like, surprise, coming around to like, well, maybe cholesterol's not so bad. What we really should be monitoring is blood sugar because the overwhelming amount of carbohydrates and tissue damage. Okay, so that's just one little tiny sliver microcosm of the health world. And then you look with personal trainers, and like I said, some of them are more cardio, more weights, more this, more that. And then personal trainers just seem to be a dime a dozen. So how in the hell does somebody say, you know what, this is what I want my life's work to be. This is the industry I want to work in. And I'm going to carve out a niche where I can provide for my family consistently in that world. So can you talk a little bit about like, all right, I worked at a gym, I was a personal trainer, to like this entrepreneurial journey to do what you're doing now? Because I know you're very successful at it, and I just don't understand how, because your competition is so fierce.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think. But I've always I've loved fitness. I found my way into it through some insecurities and dealing with my own stuff. But like there was a point in there, like I think it's like 2014, 2015. So I've been working as a trainer for like 6-7 years, when I started to really appreciate the ability to, like, I guess just the ability that comes with training and exercise and eating right. And it kind of came to a head for me one time when I was out on vacation with my wife. We were actually on our honeymoon in Ghana, Africa, which is, she had spent a year as an orphanage there. So it's the whole thing. And we were trying to go up this staircase to the top of this tower in an old slave castle out there. And this family was there, like another American tourist family was there, and they couldn't go up the stairs because they just had to, like, they're carrying too much weight around. They're just a little on the obese side. So the mom and the dad sat at the bottom, and their 3 kids playing on their devices while we walked up the stairs and did this whole thing and did this tour and then came back down. And to me, that was like, it was kind of a like an idea of like, hey, it's not even about like having a 6-pack or whatever else, but it's about the ability to show up when necessary, show up for your family, show up at work, show up on vacation, right?
Right.
Like, so it's not necessarily about running away from this fear of insecurity and like not necessarily being enough or being good enough. It's about what can you create, like, rather than being like, and I think women get targeted by this a lot. You hear like the verbiage around women's weight loss. It's like lose weight, drop fat, decrease your pant size. It's all about becoming smaller and putting yourself into a box.
Yeah.
When in reality, exercise is an amplifier. It's a force multiplier, which allows you to get stronger, do more things. Like now you can do 10 pull-ups. Like what does that do for your self-esteem and your confidence? So I think that's kind of where that turning point was. For me. And so in 2014, 2015, my wife and I saved a bunch of money and then sold all of our stuff. We were living in Seattle at the time and moved to South America for what was going to be 6 months. Something I'd always wanted to do. So I tried at that point, because I'd had a couple of clients who were people in the startup space in Seattle who had like that entrepreneurial like thing going on for themselves that I was just talking to, getting their feedback and input, which by the way, makes personal training one of the greatest jobs that a 22-year-old can have, because like the gym is a great democratizer, and you like nowhere else in the world are you getting like CEOs being like, excuse me, 19-year-old, can I work in with you? Like it's just, it just creates a unique environment. And then I am like, people are asking me about my opinions on health and fitness. And I'm like, but you have all this expertise. You're starting up like a tech company. You're the CEO of this. You've done all these things.
Right.
I told my wife all the time during like when I worked there, like bring me the world's problems because I can solve them before 2 p.m. with my clients. Because they were just the smartest, like coolest human beings in the world. And I got a chance to be around them as a 22-year-old, 24-year-old. Like it was incredible. So at this time I ended up like trying to transition people to an online style of personal training. And so for me, what that meant is, since I loved working out, it was like, all right, here, Scott, is an Excel document with exercises on them. So here's your Excel, here's your name of your exercise, your sets, your reps, and your tempo. Great. And then I wasn't getting really good results with it. So it became this kind of like, well, now I have to figure out like solve this problem. And I've always like enjoyed that aspect of business. It's just like, how do you solve that problem? How do you get a little bit better at it? And so I was like, you know what I'm missing is videos. I need videos. So I filmed like 600 videos,
holy
exercises, and put them all into YouTube. And then I put them all into the Excel document, and it took me forever, but I was shipping these Excel documents off, and no one did them. So I was like, dang, close one, next time. So that's when I really started getting into nutrition, because I was like, okay, I'm losing out on something here. People aren't doing what I'm asking them to do, and I'm missing a big piece. And what I found was that if people didn't have a good nutritional structure dialed in, they were never going to get results in their fitness, because they're always inflamed. They never felt good. They didn't see results. So the momentum stagnated. And so I went back to the drawing board in about 2018 and created this style of dieting, or style like nutrition, that I call the $1 Million Body Method, based off of low carb backloading, which is something that I've been messing around with a lot in like 2014, 2015. And since then, I really try to like get people to start with the nutrition piece, and then we'll add in the training piece as we go, because that seems to get them better results longer term. What were we talking about?
The entrepreneurial journey. But that spurred like 13 more questions. So it was a lot of trial and error, it sounds, for like 3 or 4 years, until you found this cornerstone piece of like, oh, nutrition before weights, nutrition before the 600 videos of YouTube. By the way, do you still have those 600 videos? Can we just?
Yeah. Yes. So you can go back and you can watch through my YouTube channel. You can just watch my hair change like over the course of a decade.
It's amazing. So do you still give out those 600 videos to people to work out? Like, do you use them at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, I mean, there's still like good videos and they're good performance stuff, but I use an app now rather than shipping off Excel documents. And I don't even get people the app until like a month, 6 weeks into the program. So trying to develop the habits of, hey, let's get your walk in, let's get some movement going. And then we can slide in and exchange the habits, rather than being like, all right, first day one, bench press, let's go. You know,
right.
I feel like it's so easy to get overwhelmed with the process. So you can always turn stuff up. I think a lot of times people make for me, one of the main things that I have to work on with my clients is talking them down.
Right.
They're like, I want to do keto. I want to do intermittent fasting. I want to work out 6 times a day. Can we do 2 a days? And I'm like, hold up. Can you walk once? Can you walk for 30 minutes one time? And then we can talk about the next thing.
Right.
Because like, especially, I mean, you know, entrepreneurs, business owners, we want to go 100%
all in
right now.
Right.
And I want results starting yesterday.
Totally. I'll tell you the best 2 lines I ever got on this. I had a buddy who got fired as a personal trainer because he's like, yeah, I can't get any clients. I'm like, how can you not get any clients? There's people walking in there all the time. He's like, because I know how this shit actually works. Like, most people won't change their diet. They're morbidly obese for a reason. They won't give up the carbs. And so when they want to train with me, I tell them, hey, before anybody trains with me, this is what you have to do. For a whole month, I need you to drink, and I can't remember if it was a half gallon of water or a gallon of water every morning before you put any food in your mouth. If you do that, the first thing that will happen is you'll be satiated through much of the day because you're well hydrated. Second of all, you'll accidentally start doing some intermittent fasting because it takes a while to drink that water. 3, it'll show you're disciplined to actually do this and change your life. And number 4, you'll come to me with some momentum of like already losing a few pounds and feeling better because you're well hydrated and not as inflamed. And then we'll know that you'll be a good personal training candidate. And he's like, nobody ever does that shit. They rather just stay fat and eat carbs every morning. And I was
he's doing it wrong. He did it backwards. You got to get the money first.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you the one secret you need to know.
Yes.
Put the $1,000 down for your initial appointment. Then once they paid you $1,000, you go drink a gallon of water. And then they go back home and they're like, this secret sucks. But they do it anyways because they paid you. And then they come in, they're like, holy shit, it worked. You're a genius.
Yeah.
He's doing it all wrong.
He's too honest.
Idea.
He was too honest for his own good, man.
You can't lead with that. You can't lead with the boring stuff because then everyone's like, well, what about the ketones?
Yeah. But aren't I supposed to be on intermittent fasting Atkins only double hit workouts per day every day?
So I heard about carnivore now. Can I do carnivore?
Yeah.
Can you have a glass of water? You haven't had a glass of water in a week, Susan. Come on.
Yeah. You're living off of Diet Coke and Pringles. Like, I think we've got some low-lying fruit. So that was first training story number 1. And then number 2, I'm not going to use his name just because he would be embarrassed about this story. But we're getting dressed at Equinox Gym in Pasadena one time. And there's this guy. He's hilarious. He's a friend of mine. He happens to be gay, which is relevant to this story. And this dude's like more shredded than I will or have ever been in my life. And he's like 60, just super ripped Asian dude. Looks like a wide receiver in the NFL at like 55 or 60. And he's like, yeah, I put on a couple pounds. Gonna have to start my New Year's resolution diet, even though it's not New Year's. And I was like, oh, what is that? Like, what's your go-to like kickstart diet? He's like, nothing white in my mouth except for my boyfriend. He's like, no potatoes, no rice, no flour, no sugar, no tortillas, no bread, nothing in my mouth except for my boyfriend. And then he proceeded to explain to me what that meant. I'm like, no, I get it. I understand the joke. Like, I don't need any more graphic, detailed explanation than that.
Picture.
Yeah, he's like, here's a picture of him. You should see. And that was. But you know what's funny is that has stuck in my mind for a few years. And sure enough, first of the year, I was like, you know what? I'm getting a little chubby. I'm up to like 223. That's about as fat as I get. And the jiu-jitsu, I've gotten to a point now where I'm not good, but I'm good enough to be a little bit lazy and hold certain positions. So I'm not getting as much of a cardio workout. So I'm like, all right, let's just make this lifestyle change, less carbs. Sure enough, it's now March 13th. We're recording this. I've lost 22 pounds, not making some type of like vicious health change, just not putting the white shit in my mouth. Like, I'll eat some sandwich meat. I'll eat a lot of cheese, but I'm just not wrapping it in bread and I'm not having tortilla chips. I'm just eating some salsa and vegetables, which sounds horrible when you say it out loud. But just trying to get rid of the bread and the tortillas and the white stuff.
But it's a super simple framework, right? It creates now like it's a binary thing. Is it white? Does it? I don't eat it. Like, that's it. That's all there is to it, right? So you don't have to be like, all right, well, what are my macros today?
Yeah.
Should I be counting? Is this how much proteins? Like, you're just like, is it white? Then I don't eat it. Then the end. Right. That's why I like a low carb diet, or like that, what I call the $1 million body method. It's like, for breakfast, you have proteins and fats. Does it have carbs in it? Well, then you don't fucking eat it.
Right. It's not hard, right? It's
right?
Like, don't have the
Proteins
toast.
and vegetables. Yeah. Like, does it have protein in it? Is it meat? Then you can have it. Is it vegetables? It's a carrot. Yeah. So then eat that.
Yeah.
Well, what about a sandwich? I don't know. Does it have carbs in it? Well, then you probably shouldn't eat it.
Right.
And then dinner time, we have protein, carbs, and veggies. So that's when you get your potatoes or rice or whatever else.
So wait a minute.
It's just like,
again, with the science changing all the time, I've always heard, or I've had it stuck in my mind for however many years, like, if you're going to have carbs, have it early in the morning. So then you end up burning it off through the whole day. Is this not the new modern science?
I mean, all of it will work, right? All of this works. I'm not going to tell you to sit here and be like, $1 million body method. That's the only way to do it.
Right.
Because that's not true. But here's what I love about this style is that it focuses primarily on blood sugar all day and your energy. Because that's why I said I work with entrepreneurs and business owners, because they understand that if they have energy, mental acuity, and focus all day long, they can make more money and have a better life.
Right.
So I would much rather have them do that all day long, have a really low carbohydrate, high protein, higher fats, because they're going to have nice, stable, long-term blood sugar all day long. They're going to teach their body to burn fat when appropriate, because most of us aren't out running triathlons and digging ditches,
right,
to where we need that high caliber fuel. So we're doing stuff. Our brain is the number one user of glucose in our bodies. So, you have glucose in your liver, you have it in your muscle bellies, and you use it with your brain. So all day long, when we're doing these mental athletics and gymnastics, we're burning off the previous day's glucose. So then So once you burn through that, you're now burning a higher percentage of fat. So your body's burning fat. You're teaching it how to use fat and carbs for fuel. And then you get to the end of the day and your glucose reserves are depleted. So you have your potatoes, you have bread, tortillas, whatever else it is, Captain Crunch, who gives a shit. You fill the muscle bellies and you fill your liver back up with glycogen. So you are not giving yourself as much of a chance to store it in fat. So it's not to say that like you won't burn it off during the day, but I think it's much easier to have carbs at night because, like you're going out for a client dinner or Thanksgiving or whatever else. It's just like, it's easier to have a bigger meal. And that fits kind of with the evolutionary perspective. It gives you long-term energy and it provides a very simple framework for being like, yes, I should have this or no, I should not.
Yeah.
So I love those aspects about this, but I'm not going to sit here and say this is the best diet. I think it's probably one of the best diets for having amazing energy though.
Yeah, because I did look up the billionaire body, and no, I'm just kidding.
And they only do carbs every Wednesday. So.
Yeah, every Wednesday on the third month of the year So let me ask you this, like on the entrepreneur journey, like obviously you're doing all the things, right? You have some social media, you have a YouTube channel, whatnot. I'm always interested in this in the clients thinking about like the macro marketing versus the micro marketing. Do you get most of your clients from some, $99 Instagram funnel that pushes them in the Facebook group so that you can then market to strangers? Or are most of your clients still coming from, some CEO of a startup who tells their buddy, yeah, man, I've lost 25 pounds. I'm feeling better. I have more energy because of, Nate, AKA the low carb guy, low carb hustle guy. And then you get like a personal introduction. I'm always wondering like where is the macro working for entrepreneurs and where is the micro like organic person to person working for entrepreneurs?
So I get much more of my clients from word of mouth than anywhere else, especially my good clients. For a while I was doing more of like a membership, kind of like what you were describing earlier. Like, okay, it's a $60 lead in for just nutrition and accountability. And then you can add on the training aspect as you go a little deeper into it. Okay, that's a little additional fee. So like having that as like an ascension. But I was spending so much time on these clients who were paying me, like $100 or less per month.
Yeah.
Because what I was finding was that like people who are paying $100 a month, but they have a net worth of $200, like they want everything for 50% of their net worth.
Right.
Versus clients who who own a business and see the value of actually having their physical health on point. And then they're spending 1% of their net worth. They are much more likely to follow through with what I'm asking and then not bug me every minute of every day and then complain and then want their money back, which kept happening. I literally 3 weeks ago, I fired 11 people in my membership program because I was like, you guys are so not fun to work with. And I was trying to do this because like, I love it. I love doing it. I love sharing like the joy of exercise and nutrition with people. Yeah. If you're going to make my life a living hell and tell me that I'm not doing a good job, bitch, the onus is on you to extract the value. So like, don't tell me that you don't like it when you don't come to my calls.
Man, shout out to my buddy Clay Ebert, who gave me this great piece of advice that I didn't listen to. When we first launched our mortgage coaching business, we had like this $59 price point. I'm like, we're going to have like 2,000 people in the program and it'll only be $59 and we'll give all this value. And my buddy Clay, he told me, he's like, hey man, I tried this before where I had like this $30 and all you got was access to my Slack channel. So I would give out constant ideas, answer questions once in a while. And he told me this will resonate with you, Nate. He's like, be very careful that you don't build a tribe of people who you don't want to lead. And he was like, at that low cost price, you're going to create a tribe of people who should have been raving fans, but in their mind, subconsciously or consciously, they feel like they should get private one-on-one coaching for $59 a month. And when you don't give it to them, they're going to be disgruntled and their credit card's going to decline and they'll leave 1-star reviews. And sure enough, like a year and a half in, we had to completely revamp the thing because we had created a tribe of $59 a month complainers. And it was brutal. And now with a price point of like $900 a month, I never hear from those clients unless they're having a real raving meltdown, which is about once a year per person. So it's like 20 calls a year instead of we were getting 20 calls a day on what's my password? Why can't I do this? Can Scott teach this? We need to pivot to that. How is he going to save the day on that? It's like $59, man. We're charging you less than cable, and your cable company isn't your personal trainer. It was nuts. So I feel your pain on that low cost entry level, but I think much like me, you're kind of like you're just like an intellectual philanthropist where you're like, I have this knowledge. I want people to be healthier. I want them to be better. I should be able to give it out at a low cost. And for people like you and I, it always freaking backfires.
And I feel like I'm coming across being a little disgruntled about this. And I think it's fresh for me right now. And and that's where it's coming from. It's because like, I have a great system, and for what they were getting for this low cost is insane. Like literally, like I'm texting them 3 or 4 times a week, getting their information, following up. I got calls all the time, all week long. They got the program is dope. There's a handbook in there. There's stuff to fill out. There's like months of content, like walking people through every nuance, every question I've ever gotten, hundreds of videos, all the exercise equipments, training, and like so it's robust. So for $60, I was like, this is going to be the shit. I'm going to transform the industry. And then it was just like, like kind of going back to what we were talking about with like the small problems, but I just felt constantly drained. And it was a vocal minority too. It was like 20% of the people, but like, oh my gosh, it was so unpleasant.
Yeah.
And I just want people to be healthy. That's why I wrote the book. It's like, you can go to Get Nate's book to get my book for literally $3. If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. But I feel like a lot of times, Scott, people like coaches write books that are like, and here's all the amazing things that happen. And if you want to know how to do it, then you actually buy my program. I didn't do that. I wrote a 28-day plan. You can actually go try this shit out and just see how it works for you. I wrote everything in there because, I don't know what I'm going to do in 10 years,
right?
But I would like someone to be able to pick up that book and transform their physical health. So like, I want to help people kind of like with their glow up, but I think I just ended up coming to the conclusion that like you said, I don't want to create a community of people that I don't want to be around.
Right.
So I had to kind of charge some more money to make sure that everyone is on the same page and is willing to be coached up in that way. And then my new plan is that, transforming some of like the leaders, people in leadership in their families, in their communities, in their businesses, that will create that waterfall effect or snowball effect. And they will be able to translate that to other people within their communities.
I love it, man. It's kind of like what we're talking about is moving to like that, lack of a better term, like that Gary V model, like where it's everything's for free or effectively free because a $20 book is effectively free. So it's like either free or it's $25,000 to be part of the inner circle, right? Like I'll give out all the stuff for free, and then personalized attention costs $25,000. Just in case I ever want to sign up for health coaching, don't listen to what I just said about the free or
$25,000. So you can sign up actually, right? I can take that credit card right over the phone.
$25,000 a month, right? That's yes, clearly.
I had a friend who is talking about his MBA program. And he said, one of the best lessons I ever got, he's like, I don't do this very often, but he's like, if you're doing a sales pitch and you say a number and they don't blink, so you say like, oh, it's $1,000 and they don't blink, you go per month. And if they don't blink, you go per user. That's good advice.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, I had a buddy that went through the one of the like Harvard or Stanford MBA programs, and he's like, yeah, we basically spent 2 years trying to drill down on one concept. I was like, well, what's the concept? He's like, how do you lead people in a business where like when you tell them to go make 100 sales calls and they come back and they're like, hey boss, I left 100 voicemails. I called everybody. He's like, well, yeah, that wasn't really the goal. The goal was actually to connect with people so we could build a relationship so we could sell something. He's like changing the employee mind shift from like, I checked the box and I made 100 calls to like, I'm invested in building relationships and making sales so this business survives. He's like, that's pretty much what we did the whole 2 years in the MBA in some different version. And I'm like, oh, that's a fascinating subject to tackle. And maybe you could have just read a book on that and saved $200,000. But he didn't like that joke so much. Hey, so a couple parting thoughts, man. If somebody, obviously they can go to Get Nate's book, right? With an S, Get Nate's book. Okay, so we'll put that up in the link in the show notes and stuff. If somebody wants to start today, maybe they're maybe they're 50 pounds overweight. They know it. You know, I find a lot of people that have a hard time getting started, frankly, Nate, are the ones that used to be high school athletes, right? Like the Al Bundys of the world who are like, I scored 4 touchdowns in the senior homecoming game, and I was a rock star high school athlete, but, you know, I'm 40 now. I'm over the hill. I've put on 50 pounds. There's no chance I can get back to jiu-jitsu. I was talking to a guy just the other day. He was like a 2-time state champion in wrestling. And I'm like, bro, I don't care how out of shape you are. There's some muscle memory there where you could come back to jiu-jitsu, you would excel at it early on compared to the person that didn't wrestle, and you'll just get motivated to lose weight. They're like, no, man, I'm past my prime. I can't do it. I'm like, you're 45, bro. You got a lot of years left. You're not past your prime. Anyway, I digress.
Look at Burn.
Yeah, exactly. So if somebody wants to take the first step right now, other than getting in touch with you, signing up for a program, reading your book, something, what's like the first health step for somebody that's been like out of rhythm for a long time?
Honestly, like we could just chat. Like that's probably the easiest thing. Just we can get on a quick call. Just go to itsnatepalmer.com. You can get in touch with me. Just like I'll shoot you a text. You just text back and forth. Easy.
Perfect.
But then grab the book. And if you would love to spend $15 on the book, you may do so. It's on Amazon and Audible as well. But like that, like if you're like, I don't know about all this, low carb sounds a little sketchy, carbs at dinner, what are you talking about with that? He said Captain Crunch earlier.
Yes, I did hear that. I caught that for sure.
But like you go check out the book, like see what the philosophy is all about, and then try an N1 experiment. Just see how it works with your body, your mentality. And then like I got like the juice on the back end. So if you need some help with that, but like check out the book. It gives you a step-by-step breakdown of exactly what to do. So I feel like that is one of the easiest things you can do, especially with how easy it is to get an Audible book these days. Or if you want to actually have a conversation, go to itsnatepalmer.com and I will text you.
Love it. Last 2 questions that I always end the podcast with. Number 1, again, we're recording this kind of early 2023. What are you most looking forward to in 2023 for you, your family, your business? We didn't even hit on the fact that we're on Front Row Dads together, so I probably should have asked about your kids. I screwed up there. Sorry. But what are you most looking forward to this year, 2023, for you, your family, your business?
Like personal family stuff is my wife and I have jobs that we have a location freedom. We're still developing the time freedom side of things, but we are going to spend about 5 weeks in Canada during the summer in Phoenix. So we'll spend June in Canada. It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited about that because that's been a big goal of ours for a long time, is to be able to travel and, you know, like live in a different place while we still work a little bit, you know?
Nice.
So that's a huge win for us. And then I just want to suffer through the next 6-8 months of jiu-jitsu and and emerge a little bit better man. You know, I think that like there's a lot of potential growth and victory there for me. And I know that if I just keep showing up and putting in the work and even if it's not fun or enjoyable at times, I know that there's massive wins on the other side of that for me.
Love it, man. And then last question, favorite movie and why? Matrix
1.
Nice. One of my favorites, but I think the first time it's been said on the podcast. So tell us why.
It's so good. It's got some like societal spirituality, like all these like different underpinnings mixed in. It's basically like the Christ archetype. So it's just like, it's a classic story with bullet time revealed for the first time, which was like crazy cinematically. Keanu Reeves acting like, you know, just like, you know, his acting styles paired perfectly with the character,
right? And
just so many guns. I just loved it. It was just so great.
Yeah, that movie. I mean, I hate to say, I hate to like be overzealous about this, but it really did change the game on what an action movie could be. It was so much fun, and you had Lawrence Fishburne being old but still kicking ass, and then you had like what was the girl's name?
Carrie-Anne Moss?
Yeah, no, her character. Trinity, yeah. You had Trinity kicking ass in like the opening scene, like,
and the walking on the walls and stuff, and that's been done so many times in every other movie.
Yeah, it's just very, very cool from start to end. Did you like the I don't know what we would call it, the reboot, the newest one? Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was okay with it.
It was fine. Like, I think the Matrix 2, Matrix 3, and then the reboot, they were all good movies, but they just didn't stand up to the original because it was so good and so fresh.
Right.
So I think that like if you had just watched Matrix 2 without having seen Matrix 1, you'd been like, oh my God, this movie rules. But since you had like the comparison there,
Yes.
also I think that has like a firm place in my heart because like that was like a formative adolescent movie for me, and I've probably watched it, Scott, 100 times.
Oh yeah. I'm the same way with Top Gun. I've probably watched Top Gun 100 times, and we had some family friends over with their 5 boys, and I was like, hey, have you guys seen Maverick yet? And they're like, no, we were really excited about seeing it. We missed it in the theater, just wasn't really on my radar. They're like, have you seen it? I'm like, yeah, like 13 times, but I'd love to watch it again tonight. And they're like, you are crazy. And I'm like, yeah, but Maverick, they literally took a piece of my childhood and they made it better without spoiling it with all the modern craziness stuff. And it's just, it's great. To me, it's like a perfect movie for men of our age.
It was a perfect action movie, and I love that you never knew who the bad guy was. Like,
Right.
It didn't even matter.
Right.
It
right.
was some enemy, and the whole thing was about
they were the Chinese, bro. It was the Chinese. I hate to tell you this. Wink, wink.
But they didn't say it, right?
Right.
It didn't matter. Well, you know what I'm excited about right now is like this whole Russia-Ukraine thing. We're finally getting back to our heritage of having Russians be the bad guys in every movie. Like the Middle Eastern thing, getting tired.
Yeah, getting very tired. Silver lining of the tragedy. All right, hey Nate, are you going to be in Utah by chance in like a month or two when this whole thing goes down with the Front Row Dads? Are you there for that? Maybe not.
Wow. I didn't know I was invited.
Okay, well,
so I guess not.
Maybe you weren't. I don't know. Maybe it was scheduled years out and you're just back in. Anyway, we will find an excuse to see each other because I am making my way out to Phoenix quite a bit. My business partner Dallas is there. If you make your way to Vegas or LA, we would love to hang out and do this in person and talk more about cholesterol. No, I'm just kidding. We'll talk more about owning a business and such.
I love cholesterol though, so I put out a reel today about cholesterol.
I know, I saw it. That's why it's top of mind.
All right,
dude.
Scott, thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Love you, dude. We'll talk soon.